Nobody knows even why some houses are called haunted.
What would you call this place?
Well, diseased, sick, crazy. Such houses are described in the Bible as lepers. Before that, an homeless place for the underworld. A house of Hades.
Hi everybody, this is Irene from Paranormal UK Radio Show, the flagship show of the Paranormal UK Radio Network, and I got it right for once without messing up by the sounds of it. I'm with Christian again today, and hiya Christian.
I'm alright, how are you?
Very hot, very hot. People, it is so hot over here in the UK at the moment. I don't know what's happening. I tell you what, I live in Wales, okay, in the UK. Now, normally Wales is renowned for rain. It rains in Wales more than it rains on the plain in Spain, I can tell you. It just absolutely, all year round, Christian. This is true, isn't it? All year round. It rains in Wales, but just recently, oh my God, I would give anything right now for rain. I've been standing out there today under the bloody sprinkler. It's driven me crazy, this heat. And I'll tell you what, the only way to get round it, Christian, is Bellinis. You've got to drink the Bellinis, you know.
Oh, that tends to be quite wet.
I haven't drunk any Bellinis today because I've been doing the show. But, you know, obviously... Bellini is my favourite drink, Peach and Prosecco, I went to a restaurant the other day, Christian, and he turned around and said, I said, can I have a Bellini? He said, raspberry, strawberry, peach. How can a raspberry or strawberry with Prosecco be a Bellini? A Bellini is peach.
I was going to say, it has to be a peach, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has to be peach. A raspberry or strawberry, that's a bloody cocktail, isn't it? Let's face it. That's what that is. It's not Bellini, people. You know, now I'm going to give you a recipe, okay? Bellini, white, fresh peaches in the juicer, okay?
Yeah.
Put it in a little bit in the bottom of the glass, top it up with Prosecco. And there you have Bellini. If you haven't got enough peaches, you can use peach syrup or peach schnapps, but it's not the same. Bellini is white peaches in the juicer.
Sounds good.
Yes, that's the way to have a Bellini. Right. And if I don't get one of them when I'm in Venice this year, you know, I want to go to this Jack's Bar in Venice because that's where Bellinis were invented. In Jack's Bar, Venice, and when I'm out there, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get a Bellini, even if it's costing me 48 quid.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're expensive. Everything's expensive in Venice, you know that. Anyway, today we have with us a fantastic guest from America. We have Mike. You know why I said Mick? Because I wrote it down as Mick on the piece of paper. It's Mike Ricksecker. Mike Ricksecker from America. He's author of many, many books. In fact, I couldn't count how many books you've written. A hell of a lot, haven't you, Mike?
I've written 10.
10? That's 7 more than me. I've done 3. I've done 3 books, and I'm on my 4th book now, which has taken me so far 2 years, but then again it is a spy book, so you know, but you've done 10 books. I know some of them, you've got volume 1, 2 and 3 on encounters with the paranormal. That sounds really good.
Yeah, there's actually 4 of those now.
4?
Yeah.
Gosh, you don't mess around, do you?
No, we keep going. That's for sure.
Yeah, and you're also, besides that, you're a publisher and the CEO of Haunted Road Media. Now, this is interesting because this is very much like a company that I've just dissolved called Granite Tide Publishing. And when I saw your hauntedroadmedia.com people, hauntedroadmedia.com website. I thought to myself, this is very much like Glen and Ty. So, yeah, you publish other people's books as well, don't you? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have about, I've kind of lost track, but about 10 or 12 people signed right now publishing books through us. And that's really just one part of Haunted Road Media because we do all the videos as well. So it's a multifaceted company.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very good. Very good. I dissolved mine last year because Amazon was ripping us off. You know, by the time you get any royalties coming through from Amazon, you're hardly making anything. So our company, we just decided to say bye-bye. And we let all the authors go. And now this, the Society of the Haunted. You are a ghostorian. Ghostorian.
Ghostorian, yeah, that's the term that I've come up with. I mean, it is what it sounds like, a ghost historian. So, you know, I research the ghosts and the places in which they haunt. But I'm trying not to step on the toes of those that have a master's in history, because my degree is in computers, because that's the career path I chose coming up, you know, when I was a younger guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I do like that word, ghostorian. I think that's really good. That's the first time I've heard that, ghostorian. You know, and also you wrote a book, Ghostorian Case Files.
Yeah, one volume so far. Everybody keeps asking me when volume 2 is going to come out, and you know, one of these days.
You are one for your
series. Yeah,
one for your volumes, aren't you?
Full of volumes. Yeah, well, the Encounter series really took off, and you know, so many people were contributing to that. Plus, we're helping a lot of historic locations with that. So, Ghostorian Case Files kind of took a back seat, and right now I'm in the middle of writing a book on shadow people. So, the Case Files keeps taking the backseat to everything else right now.
Oh, that's good. You should have come on last week. You know, we had Jason Offert on because he's written a book on shadow people.
I was about to say, we were talking about that last week.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I think I got one in the kitchen.
Oh, really?
I keep saying, yeah. But you know what it's like with shadow people. You very, very rarely see them face on, do you? It's always out the corner of your eye. And I can be watching the television and the kitchen door is just along that same wall that the television's on. And every now and then I see something flip past in the kitchen. Something go up. But, you know, that's another story. Deadly Airs. Heirs.
Yeah, that was the first book I ever wrote. That was actually a mystery novel.
What's that? Oh.
That was the first book I ever wrote. That's actually a mystery novel, so a little bit different.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I like that. I like the sound of that. That's a great title. Deadly Airs. What does this mean? Just tell me a little bit. I know it's a novel. People.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of good fun. It's a novel. It's a private investigator novel. And basically, he's been hired to find the lost will and testament of a billionaire who supposedly drowned in his swimming pool. So, you know, it turns into a whole big murder mystery, of course.
Oh, no, that sounds good. Does sound good. I tell you what, I'm going to Venice soon. I might buy that because give me something to read on the plane. I do like a novel. I do like to get into a story, especially when I'm abroad on beaches or something like that. I do like true life and everything like that, but I do like a novel as well, a story. Sorry if anybody heard that. That was one of my dogs barked in the kitchen because I've shut them away, and the parrot is in the hallway. Okay. I got a parrot called Pickles Pee-wee, and he's been exiled to the hallway while I'm doing the show because he's taken to squawking and ringing his bell every time I do a show. He can be quiet all day, and then as soon as I get on this mic, he starts ringing that blasted bell. You know? Anyway, so what have you been doing with yourself? You actually travel around doing investigations, Mike?
Yeah, I do a lot of traveling between the investigations, conferences. I do a lot of speaking engagements as well. But I mean, the idea is basically travel around, film the investigations, publish those as the videos on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, and then write about the different investigations, things that we've experienced either in the books, which are published through Haunted Road Media, or I also have a blog on MikeRicksecker.com. And so there's a lot of course, throw photos and things like that up on Instagram. So there's a lot of different things that I'm out there doing.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask you, right? Now, you obviously travel around to what sort of buildings are there? Haunted buildings, inns, asylums, places like this, castles?
Oh, yeah, it's a variety of different places. So yeah, there have been asylums, there have been abandoned hospitals, old schools, haunted hotels, abandoned locations, homes, mansions. Yeah, a lot of different locations. So we hit an assortment for sure.
No castles, we got all them.
Well, yeah, there's very few castles in America. There's a few, but yeah, you guys over there, I mean, you've got the market on the haunted old castles.
I say, surrounding my house, there's about 4 or 5 of them. You just can't move for blasted castles around here. They do, they are literally, especially Wales, because the Welsh, it's something to do with invasion or something from the English. A lot of the castles were built.
Do you know there's more castles per square mile in Wales than any country in the world?
Oh, wow.
Is there? I can believe
fact.
that. I can believe that. And I've been in most
to Wales.
Yeah, you can come here. There's one up the road called Clonstefan Castle. And I've seen some really strange things there. There's some beautiful castles and palaces and mansions and things like that, manor houses all over the UK. Literally, it's a fantastic place to be if you're into the paranormal. I will say that.
Absolutely.
But where was I? I've forgotten where I was now. Oh, my gosh. That's what I wanted to say. On all these travels that you go on, have you actually come face to face with or seen actually a ghost? Yeah.
I've seen a lot of different things. I mean, just recently here, a few weeks back during an investigation at one of our favorite haunted locations near us, which is the Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois, we did see the apparition of a little girl in one of the hallways on the top floor. It's the abandoned section of the hotel, and it's been rumored that there's a little girl up there. We don't know if it's the one that everybody always talks about, but she was in the hallway near the room where she's usually seen, so it very well could be her. But yeah, young girl, about 8 or 9 years old, in a dress. It was interesting because she kind of morphed out of the shadows down the hall, walked toward us, and we're trying to, get her to come a little closer. She only got about halfway down the hallway, and then she wouldn't come any closer.
So was she in period dress? Like 18th century or 19th century? Or...
Yeah, I would put her about early 20th century.
Yeah. And is there, besides there being a story of a little ghost, is there any traceable history on this little girl?
Well, that's the challenge with her, is that there really isn't any traceable history with her. There is on other spirits that are in that hotel, like Pearl, who's in the one corner room up there. She actually took her own life in that room, so you're able to trace it back with her and some of the others. But that little girl, we're not really sure where she comes from.
Do you believe... I know I said I wasn't going to bombard you with questions. Do you believe that sometimes these sightings or ghosts or hauntings of little children, like little boys, little girls, could be something far worse, something a lot deeper and darker?
Well, I think you take that chance with any of these entities that, it could be something else in disguise. In all of my years of doing this, which is closing in on about 30 years now, I've only come into contact with one entity that you could call demonic. There's other spirits of humans where there's just been like a mean, nasty person. They were a jerk in life, so now they're a jerk in death, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But most of the spirits I come into contact with are exactly who they say they are. They are simply a human being that no longer has a body, and they're the same type of person in the afterlife that they were in life. And you're just kind of like you and I are doing right now. We're sitting here having a conversation. You go into these locations and you sit down and you have a conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. Do you take all this paraphernalia with you, besides cameras and recorders? Do you take ghost boxes and things like that when you go for an investigation?
I don't use the ghost box. I don't believe in it because I don't believe that ghosts speak in radio signals. You
can't hear it anyway, can you? It's just a buzzing. It drives you crazy.
Yeah, it does. It gives me a headache anyway. So, and there's a lot of these different ghost apps that people have on their phones or computers or what have you. And like I said earlier, I came up with a degree in the computer industry. It's a programming degree, so I understand how those programs on computers are created and how to create a simulation. And so I understand how those applications could very easily be manipulated and faked. So I don't ascribe to any of those either. I keep it simple. Yes, I have my video cameras, I have my audio recorders, take a flashlight. Your best tool is your body and your senses.
Well, that's it, your gut instinct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you need. I think that's all you need. You see them in these television shows. They've got all this paraphernalia with them and God knows what else, and all these things that were designed for completely different jobs to ghost hunting. Like the K2 meter. What was that? Designed for tracing electric wires or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's electromagnetic field meter. And, I have used that. And every once in a while, you might get some interesting activity with it. But all it tells you is that, okay, there is an anomalous electric charge going on here right now. And I've had that happen in locations in which there should not be any electromagnetic fields. So it kind of makes you scratch your head. There have been times where it seems like we've gotten some sort of interaction with it, but again, it doesn't happen all that often. And that's about the extent of like the real, as far as gadgets, the only thing that I'll ever bring. And I just kind of leave it sit there and see if anything pops up. And if it does, maybe we'll try to interact with it. But most times nothing ever happens with that.
So you're not one of these that sit there going, can you turn the light on?
No, because the spirits aren't guinea pigs, No. You would not say that going into somebody's house. And that's the way I approach it is how would I introduce myself to somebody? If I'm walking into somebody's house, how would I talk to them? I'm not going to sit there on their living room couch and say, hey, can you turn on the light? Can you make a noise? Can you knock on the door? Can you hit me? All this crazy stuff. No, you just have a conversation.
Yeah, you can imagine the spirit thinking, oh, my God, here we go, another one.
Right, exactly. And some of these locations that are billed as haunted locations, and they run all these ghost hunts, and I understand why they do it because it does raise money to help preserve the location, all that. Totally get it. But, yeah, those spirits that are there, they've got to just be shaking their heads half the time. Yeah,
there must be. It must be entertainment for them.
Could be.
They're all sitting there thinking, here we go. No, watch this one over there. Just see that one over there. Watch what he does. But it is ridiculous. I live in a haunted house. My house is very, very haunted. And, I don't go around doing anything. Nothing at all in this house. Not because I don't want to, but they're there. They're there anyway. If I walk up the stairs and there's one up the stairs, so what? But it's, right. I don't know. It just makes me laugh when some of these, some of these shows you get on the television, especially one that we won't mention, Most Haunted Round here, will we? You know.
For entertainment purposes.
Oh,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I tell you what, the way they throw stones, they're bloody good at it. They'd be great shot putters on the field. They really would.
Have you ever used a voice box or anything to hear a voice?
Yeah, that's basically the same thing as like the ghost box. And no, I don't use them.
Okay. Yeah. Is there any reason why you don't use it? Is it?
Well, yeah, I don't believe that the spirits speak in radio. We put together a show. I think it was last fall, and understanding how, because basically it's picking up a radio signal. What is it? It cycles 13 times a second or whatever, and somehow it's supposed to be picking up the spirit's voice and spitting it back out at you, along with all this radio chatter, right?
Yeah.
But if you understand how a radio works and how it picks up those signals, starting from the originating station and how the signal is converted and modulated and all that, a ghost would actually have to be speaking in a radio signal for that device to be able to pick it up and spit that voice back out. And that's if you subscribe to the idea that they're speaking in radio. Other people say, well, they're actually piecing together these bits and pieces of the radio chatter to formulate these words and phrases. Now, in order for something like that to happen, you gotta remember it's going 13 times a second, plus the spirit would have to know what's coming up next. So somehow it's very quickly assembling all these words while also knowing what the future is going to hold in the next millisecond. It's insane. So no, I don't use them.
The reason I asked is because a lot of shows these days use the voice box, the fluctuating channels of the different radio stations and things like that. And, sometimes I feel that it could be coincidence, that they hear a word or a name, because, it could be total coincidence. It might not be by design.
Yeah, a lot of times it really is. You might occasionally get something over the white noise of it, but the reason why people like to use it, and the shows are using it all the time now, is because it's a quick fix. They're trying to simulate some sort of real-time interaction that you're asking a question, you get a response, ask a question, and it's a lot quicker than, okay, let's sit here, we'll ask some questions, and then we'll go back and we'll listen to the audio recorder and see if the audio recorder picked up anything. That takes a lot more time, where, if you're on TV, it's got to happen now, and so it's a lot quicker to just have something spit it back out at you. And, yeah, a lot of times you might get like a yes or a no. Well, a lot of people say yes or no on the radio. So
it's a bit like a flea circus, isn't it? They try and create an entertainment for people, but it's kind of superficial, isn't it? Because maybe people in death, when they pass away, are not necessarily wanting to entertain the living. So it might be just pure coincidence that people hear things that are relative to who they're talking to. So I don't think it's foolproof. It's not, I agree with you. I think it's a little bit random. So.
Mind you, my ex business partner, he took one, he was in Colorado, and he took one down the Caves of the Wind, which is right down underground, these caves. And he took one down there into a cavern in the caves. And it picked up music. But we never thought that it would work. Definitely wouldn't work under the ground. So, we couldn't understand it. But it was like orchestra music. And then when he checked with the owner of the caves back in the early part of the century, to the owner of the caves that was in the early part of the century, used to have bands down there, orchestral bands.
Oh, right.
But that's right deep underground.
Yeah, the one like small percentage that I'll say that they may work. The one caveat I'll throw in there is that they may be able to pick something up over the white noise, because that's just the speaker picking up, some sort of electric pulse and interpreting that. So that's separate than the whole radio gizmo part of it. So the actual speaker with the white noise coming through it may be able to pick something like that up. Again, it will still be kind of random, but I would ascribe to that more than all the radio chatter.
Yeah, it was just so unusual. Cave of the Winds, it's called. Cave of the Winds in Colorado. And I don't know how deep underground, but I know it was way down underground. So, and it was a bit of a shock to find that this thing actually picked something up. And it was a test. It was a test.
Okay.
What was I going to say? But I've forgotten where I am now.
Sorry, it's my fault. I just went on a bit of a tangent there. I always like to ask people about the equipment that they may use or that they rate, or the techniques involved in capturing, it's so, that's always interests me, how people think. So that's the reason I asked.
Yeah, do you find, Mike, we did have a guest on here a couple of months ago. What he does is he reenacts scenes in haunted places. He's a photographer, brilliant photographer. And what he does, he has an actress or a model actually reenact the scene of the tragedy or an event to encourage activity. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I've done some things like that before. Not necessarily acting out the exact event that's happened there, but creating an atmosphere of that time frame. So, like being at a old historic haunted train station, and we're at the little bar there that's within the train station, and acting out a scene that may have taken place or would be very typical for that time period, and see if we could get any interaction like that. So that's actually a good idea. Just as long as I would caution on being careful about acting out some tragedy that may have happened, like somebody took their life, or reenacting the actual death scene, because that may be very traumatic for the spirit. So instead of doing something like that, it's more toward just kind of just a generalized event that may have happened, or to try to act out something that would have been from that time frame.
Getting back to what you were talking about with these ghost boxes and things, what do you make of I've got to ask you this because I've got a ghost that does this. Do you think that they're actually able to talk on the telephone? I used to have a friend that used to phone me every day practically from New Zealand, and we would sit on the telephone chatting for hours on it. And she wasn't the only one. A friend from Texas had the same experience. And when you're talking on the telephone for a long time, you get up, you make a cup of tea, you come back, you go to the loo or whatever. And occasionally when I'd go to the loo, I'd come back and she'd say, Irene, she said, Herbert's just said something over the phone. Now, this has also happened to my ex-partner, business partner as well. He's heard something over the telephone, a man's voice. I'm in the house on my own, and yet a man speaks down the telephone.
Interesting. Well, if there's a spirit in your home that's talking and the receiver happens to pick it up, it could certainly, transfer that across the line so that they could hear it on the other side. I mean, it could certainly happen. Yeah.
One particular time, it's kept calling my name. Kept saying my name. This man was saying my name down the telephone, and my friend turned around and said, Irene, he's been asking for you. There's been a man on the phone saying, Irene, Irene. And straight away I knew what it was. I knew something was wrong with the dogs. So I said, well, hang on a minute, I'll just run off to see to the dogs. And I went off to see to the dogs, and what they're doing, tearing up cushions.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So, but quite often, even when I've left the Skype open, there's been voices of men, well, a man. And I just say it's her, but, he obviously quite fascinated. He comes from a time before the telephone, so he's more than likely fascinated by it. But, this has happened quite often. And to various people. Various people have turned around and said, I've just heard a man speak down the phone. And a man's just said hello down the phone,
Oh,
and I keep saying, has he got a Welsh accent? No? If he's got a Welsh accent, it's me ghost. So, I don't know. But, it's... so I just wondered if you'd ever heard of that before, whether you knew that they could actually communicate using everyday apparatuses like telephones or Skype or,
I think it's kind of that same concept as when we're trying to, use a digital audio recorder for that, or, back in the day we'd use a reel tape. If that microphone is able to pick up that sound and transmit it, then sure, it could go across the telephone like that if that microphone's picking up on it. Sure.
Yeah, I just get the feeling that when he does it, he's all excited. Oh, she's got up. I'm going to have a bit of fun here now with the telephone. I'll say hello to this woman. To come back to pick up the telephone and they're all excited on the end. Oh, Herbert's just said hello, or Herbert's just been on the phone, And I think, oh my gosh. But like I say, this house is well, you'd like this house. Most people would like this house. It's well.
Oh, yeah.
I've got three in here. All from the same time. They're all Edwardian. So,
okay.
Well, late Victorian, early Edwardian, and lovely people.
Very good.
Crazy, don't I? Absolutely crazy. But so asylums. You actually go and visit asylums. Is there any famous ones? Have you been to?
Probably the most famous one that I've been to would be the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, which is in West Virginia here in the States. Very, very haunted location. A lot of stuff going on while I was there. I was just set up for a book signing and did an investigation later on. But, there was, there were balls getting thrown down the hall, doors that were opening and closing on their own, just all kinds of stuff. So, very interesting location for sure.
Yeah. You see, you still got all your asylums, haven't you, even though they're closed down? Over here, what do they do? Beautiful Victorian asylums, absolutely beautiful architecture and the bell towers and things like that. They demolish them, build housing estates.
Yeah, we still have a lot of them. Some of them are gone. Some of them have been demolished, but you have some, like Trans-Allegheny's one where it came into the hands of a private owner, and they've done some things to try to keep it going, not just from the fact that it's haunted, but also it was very historic. If I recall correctly, with that one, it's the second largest stone structure in the world. Whatever type of stonework was used in it to the Kremlin. Mm-hmm. So. So I have some interesting history behind it as well, and so they'll do a lot of the historic tours there, and then they'll do the hauntings at night. So
it's a very big place.
Oh yeah, it's huge, absolutely huge.
Oh. So there's going to be a lot of ghosts there then, a lot of hauntings there, and a lot of sad ones, I suppose, as well.
Well, yeah, with asylums, you get a lot of sad spirits. There is a lot of tragedy within those buildings, a lot of death, a lot of cruelty. So, yeah.
Mm. So, getting back to your book, you're writing on the Shadow Man. Now, have you witnessed the Shadow Man?
Yeah, I've witnessed several, actually.
You have?
My very first paranormal experience that you had mentioned earlier that, a lot of times you see them out of the corner of your eye and all that. Yeah, a lot of times you do. But the first one was very, very different because I did see that one full on. In fact, it actually touched me and interacted with me. So I was only about Yeah. I was only about 8 or 9 years old. Woke up in the middle of the night and it was standing there in the corner of my room. Of course, I wasn't thinking at the time shadow person or anything like that because I had no idea from all that stuff back then. I was thinking that there was an intruder in my house and it was in my room and it was going to kill me, which of course did not happen because I'm still alive today.
No, that didn't happen.
Yeah. But, it stood there. It stared at me for a while. I tried to scream. My mouth opened. Nothing came out because I was just too terrified. It came up to my bed, leaned over, and it then crossed my arms across my body. So it took me like by the wrists and crossed my arms across my body. I have no idea why it did that. And then it ran off down the hall and into a closet. At that point, I found my legs, found my voice, ran off to my parents' room screaming, and telling them about what I had seen. They tried to tell me that, it was just a bad dream, like good parents should do. But, I was wide awake for the whole thing. I knew what I saw. I knew what I experienced. And so, that was my very first shadow person experience, very young age.
And this is what we were talking about last week. With a lot of these experiences with shadow people, you do get the paralysis.
Yeah, except I didn't have paralysis because, my mouth opened, my arms moved across my body. I turned my head to watch it run down the hall, so I wasn't actually paralyzed.
Well, that's what I can't understand about, when you get these things happen to you, it's always your head. You're able to move your head, but you don't seem to be able to, the rest of your body seems really heavy, that you can't move it.
Well, I believe that the sleep paralysis and shadow person experience are two different things.
Yeah.
I think they can happen at the same time, but sometimes, because most of all the other shadow people that I've experienced have not been while I was sleeping. I've been wide awake and I've seen them. I've, walking into a room and one goes flying across the room, so I'm obviously not asleep. I've actually experienced real sleep paralysis. A couple of times, saw no shadow people whatsoever during those particular points in time. They were scary experiences because my mind was awake and I was very aware of my surroundings, but my body was asleep and I couldn't move, and so it was scary in the fact that I couldn't move. What is going to happen to me? Because I'm in a compromising position. My body's asleep. How do I wake up? So it was terrifying in that regards, but not because I was seeing shadow people. I saw no shadow people during those times. So the information that I've been putting together has been that they can happen at the same time. You might wake up, you might be experiencing sleep paralysis, and there happens to be a shadow person in your room at that exact same time too. But they're not all inclusive of each other. You can have shadow people experiences without the sleep paralysis, and you can have sleep paralysis without the shadow people experiences.
Yeah, I understand. But what? Some of these been wearing hats.
Yeah, you get the hat people. Those are generally considered some of the more nefarious of the shadow people. Sometimes they come in on their own. Sometimes they come in with a couple of like humanoid type figures. So there might be like a team of them. They tend to instill fear upon people. There's theories about how, they may be there to feed off of that fear. So they may be, like some sort of psychic vampire or something like that. If you kind of think of like an energy vampire.
Energy vampire,
Yeah. So there's a lot of different theories.
But there seems to be different types, don't there? You've got the ones, like you say, that move awkwardly, like robotic. It's like, I'm trying to do it here in the chair, people. Sorry about that. Any squeaking, it's the chair. Right? That move awkward. And then you've got these ones that flash past, like bolt lightning.
There's a lot of different types of shadow people.
The ones that wear hats, the ones that don't.
Yep. Those ones that fly by like that, I'll call them wisps because they're very translucent.
Yeah.
They go by very fast. But they still all get categorized as shadow people. And what's interesting, I'll tell you a story here about one of the translucent ones I saw that color wisp. I was doing a paranormal investigation of this haunted restaurant.
Yeah.
We were really just finishing up, and I was on my own. There's a couple others sitting up in the bar area, a couple others sitting out in the restaurant area, and I was just taking photos. Walk into the kitchen, and this just black wisp just darted across the kitchen and blew through this little metal swinging door that was on the side of the room. Very flimsy. You could hear it bang. It was very loud. But the door didn't move at all. The door stayed still. And, I call out to the others, hey, did you guys hear that noise? And they're like, oh, yeah, we heard that. It was loud and clear. I was like, and I described what happened. And I started asking them, did you guys throw anything at the door? I was wondering if they were putting me off. They were trying to, scare me or whatever. But they were off doing their own thing. They're like, no, we didn't touch it. We didn't throw anything at it. Nothing. And, I went over there to test the door, and you just, touch it with your finger. And it's so flimsy and so light, it was just easily opening up. But that thing did not move at all when that shadow person blew through it, even though you heard it loud and clear. So one of the theories that I've been working on is shadow people as interdimensional beings. Yeah. And that, it was in another plane of existence. Perhaps it saw me walk in, maybe thought I was a shadow or thought I was a spirit or whatever it may have thought that I was, got scared because it just, like I said, took off as soon as I walked in. It was like it was scared. Blew through that same door in its own plane of existence, which I wouldn't have been able to see because it's on its own plane, but maybe I heard it because maybe the sound resonated between both planes of existence. It's an interesting theory to try and get your head around, but it makes a lot of sense to me.
It does to me as well, because, this is one question that has always I wanted answered. Let me tell you a story, right? Now, I've told this before, and I told it last week as well, I believe. Sorry, people, if I'm repeating, but, I'm old, so blow it. Anyway, my son was doing up an old mansion house in London, big old house. There was no one in it. He was sleeping in it because he was doing it up at the time. And I went along to see him, and he said, Mum, I'll take you around and show you. So me being nosy, obviously I wanted to have a good look around this old house. We ended up in the servants' quarters up in the attic. Just as we were about to leave this room in the attic, there were several rooms up there where obviously servants used to sleep or whatever. Just as we were about to leave this particular room, he and my husband walked outside. They stepped outside over the threshold and outside the door. And as I was about to go out the door, there standing beside me all of a sudden was this woman. And she was, say, from the 1920s, early part of the century, or the house was a lot older than that, but this particular woman, she was dressed in early 20th century clothing, like a housekeeper. I saw her, she saw me. She was as shocked to see me as I was to see her. I wondered whether she thought of me, or did I come across as a ghost to her, do you think?
Probably. I've heard similar stories where a friend of mine and her mother, their house was very haunted, walk into the dining room one day and see a couple of men sitting there, apparitions.
Yeah.
And they turned toward and looked at the ladies, and the one said to the other, will you look at that? As if they were the ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah. But the shock on this woman's face was the same as mine, obviously, mouth wide open. Yeah. And nothing was said. The only thing that broke it was the fact that my son had called out and said, are you coming, Mum? And that was the end of it. I walked through the door and walked out. Didn't even mention it.
Yeah, this borderlines on a lot of other different types of theories, and there's a rabbit hole we could really venture down.
We're going to get through a lot of this today. I can see that, people.
Right. That it may not be that you're actually witnessing a ghost. There may be some sort of almost like a time travel experience in that you are actually witnessing another point in time as it is actually happening, and they're witnessing you at another point in time as it is actually happening. And so at that moment, there's some sort of whatever that veil is, whatever that thing that keeps us separated and stuck in this river of time has narrowed or thinned or whatever you want to call it. I've used the term echo before. Perhaps these two time frames are echoing and they happen to see each other at a time. Whatever has happened, you're actually getting a glimpse into the past. And that person, that woman that you saw, is actually getting a glimpse of the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I had a revelation type dream, awaking. When you go to bed and you're not actually asleep, but you're kind of just going off. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
That's when I get a lot of stuff come to me. And I'd heard outside, before I got into that state, I'd heard these footsteps outside on the stairs. But this house is renowned. Oh, these dogs, I'm going to do them tonight. They are really bad. Sorry about that, everyone, but, I think somebody's messing around somewhere with a whistle. Where was I? Hang on. Yes. Right. This house is renowned for the person walking up the stairs in hobnail boots. Okay? Many, many relatives, many visitors to this house have heard this ghost or these footsteps coming up the stairs. This particular night, I just got into bed, so I don't think I hadn't even turned the light off. So being an old house, old Edwardian house or Victorian house, there is a light pull above my bed that you can pull the lights and it turn the light switch off. I'm going to strangle that dog in a minute. No, I'm not really. It's Gertie. Gertie's a paranormal pup. She's the mascot on the show. Anyway, she always likes to get in on everything. Where was I? So, anyway, I heard these footsteps coming up the stairs. I just got into bed and I just lay there listening to them. I thought, blow it. Anyway, I turned off the light and you are just going into that state where you are not really thinking of anything. And then it came to me that we are living in all these parallel worlds. If you can see, I've written about this on one of my websites actually. If it's hard to explain, it's easier to write about. If you can imagine a load of dominoes standing up on end, and then as they fall, they all fall into each other, right? So every now and then, we will have one fall in, or the one nearest us, this parallel world or whatever, will fall into our dimension, and there you get these crossovers. But then the one behind that's falling into that one, and the one behind that, just like a set of dominoes going over.
Right.
It sounds crazy. You're going to have to read it.
No, I would definitely be interested in reading that. I'm always interested in hearing different theories.
Yeah, it's just... So that every time something happens, when we have this, like, stepping into another dimension or that experience, it's happened all the way through from one dimension into the other. If you could see my hands here, I'm talking like an Italian. They're going, I'm trying to explain this. So... whatever's happening in the dimension behind that one is slipped into that dimension, and so on and so on and so on and so on, like a pack of cards falling over. And then for some reason, somehow it just rectifies itself and goes back to the way it was. Because I have had so many times when one place I was living in Crystal Palace. I was living in a boyfriend's house in Crystal Palace, an old Edwardian place again, and massive house. And everyone had gone out that day. I was the only one left in the house because I was between jobs at the time. So I had been out in the garden sunbathing, came back in to get a cold drink, and then I thought I'd go in the sitting room, sit down and watch a bit of television. As I went into the sitting room, as I stepped over that threshold into that sitting room, the whole room changed. The decor was different. Everything about that room was different. And it only lasted for a few seconds because I looked down, saw my feet. When I looked up again, it was all back to normal. And somebody told me that what actually more than likely broke it was the fact that I looked down at my modern day shoes. I saw my feet, modern day shoes, and that broke whatever was happening.
I know why they said that. Have you ever seen the movie Somewhere in Time?
No.
Okay, it's with Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour, and he puts himself back in time by basically he's at this old hotel and he's trying to meet this woman from decades beforehand, and so he arranges everything in his room, dresses in a time frame, makes everything look as if it had been back then.
Yeah.
And so he's able to actually succeed and go back in time and live out there for a couple of days or whatever it was. And what zapped him back into his present day was he saw Penny from modern time. So, that instantly reminded him that, oh, no, I'm actually from the future, and it put him back. So that, going along with that same story, it makes what she said made sense. My view of it, and so this is a little bit different than parallel universes, is to me time is all an illusion. We've come up with our structure of time and clocks and all that as a way to explain our reality, and we're caught up in what we've been calling the river of time. But I think we need to look at time in a different light. And I've been calling this a stacked time theory and it's just a theory, but if you look at it as more of a vertical line rather than horizontal, like we have been with timelines and all that.
Yeah.
If you look at it as more vertical, you take a specific place and everything that has happened and everything that is going to happen there, and you just put it all together, stacked on top of each other, and it's all happening concurrently together at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's something that happens occasionally in which that veil is pulled back, or there's some sort of echo between a couple of different time frames, because they're all stacked on top of each other, and you're actually able to see and witness some things in other moments that are all happening there at that place at that moment.
So you're like you say, yours is all stacked on top of each other. Mine's like dominoes all lined up.
You got dominoes falling. Yeah, we all have these different ideas and theories, and I think there's validity to all of them, and it's the reality is probably somewhere in between all of that. But I will say that what we're seeing and experiencing right now, there's so much more to it that we don't understand.
That's true.
And that what we're seeing and witnessing right now is not exactly reality.
No, absolutely true. 100%.
What inspired you to write the Campfire Tales book?
I was asked. that's really the simplistic answer. But my publisher at the time, I'd already written the Ghosts of Maryland and the Ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma books. I had those two paranormal books through them. They mostly, almost exclusively, publish nonfiction books, and they were looking to branch out a little bit into the fiction arena. So they thought they would do so with the Campfire Tales book, but keep it that the stories were based on real history and legends, and just kind of embellish it with some, with some fun storytelling. And coming from a fiction background, because I'd already written, mystery novels. I'd written ghost stories in the past and things like that. I've written some historic fiction. I jumped right on that. I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds like a fun project. And so that's essentially what I did. I used mostly locations that I had been visited, very familiar with, and then developed a story around that. So you have a lot of the history and backstory. So you do learn some things that really happened at these locations through those stories. But then you have the fun ghost storytelling along with it. So it was a fun project.
Sounds good. I was going to also ask, is there anything you've noticed that there's like a pattern in, say, I know you did a sort of some research into Route 66, didn't you?
Yeah.
And when you did that research, what what did you find that was the most interesting thing about that research and the ghosts or the spirits that were a part of that legendary road? What did you find anything very significant, like a pattern or anything?
Well, it's interesting. Route 66 here in America covers, well, at least it used to, because it's a decommissioned highway, but pieces of it are still around. It runs from Chicago to Santa Monica, Los Angeles area. So it's a large part of the country, and you do end up with some similar tales between all the different locations, like the ghostly vagabond on the side of the road, the ghostly hitchhiker that he might want to try to get a ride from you, or he'll jump out in front of a car. You may pass him at one point, and then like a mile or two down the road, you'll pass him again. So you encounter a lot of these different types of stories, all throughout that highway, up and down the whole thing. But then you also have stories that are very localized to each area, like out west. In those areas, you'll get some UFO stories out there, where more to the east, you may have, Fort Reno in Oklahoma is right off of Route 66 out there. So some of the Fort Reno ghost stories will tie into the old route as well. So there's some similarities as you go up and down, and then differences as well that are more localized.
I see. Very good.
That's one thing that we did want to talk to you about was Route 66, because I didn't know it'd been it's no longer a road, working road. I thought it was still going, with people travelling up and down it. There's been television programs over here. There was a documentary not so long ago where they were travelling down Route 66.
Yeah, it was decommissioned a long time ago. I want to say it was good, maybe 30, 40 years ago or something like that. They actually decommissioned the highway. But there are certain pieces of it that you can still drive down. There's been some areas where it's been memorialized, and like maybe a certain state will open up a state road with that number to memorialize Route 66. And they'll say, well, yeah, part of it used to run down here, and now we've got extended off. And what killed it was the interstate system here. So the big superhighways, and they took a lot of that traffic away from Route 66 and basically served the same purpose, but instead of going through all of these little towns, it just blew by them. And so in a way, yes, it quickened transportation and all that throughout our country, but it also destroyed a lot of these small towns because it took business away from there. And so a lot of these small towns that had started booming died off.
Yeah.
So now you have some ghost towns throughout the country because of that are related to Route 66.
Right.
It's such a shame, because that is so well known over here. What was that television program with the two motorcycle cops? Chips. Yeah. I used to like that. Right. That's before your time, Mike.
No, I've seen Chips.
Have you?
Little kid. When I was a little kid, my sister and I loved the Black Boots. So the theme song would kick up, and they showed the intro, and they showed the guys wearing the black boots, and my sister and I would yell "Black Boots," and we'd run to the closet and get our black boots. And,
Oh dear, I'm going to say I was a kid at the same time as well. I'm not so sure, but I did like that program, and it is such a shame, because to me that road is history.
It's iconic, isn't it? It's even known really well in the UK.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah, there's Route 66 museums that are out there now, and so it's taken on a lot of historic value, and so there's certainly a niche market for it, and a lot of memorabilia and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it in itself doesn't actually exist anymore.
Does any of it go through Arizona at all?
Yeah, there's stretch.
I thought it did, because I'm sure I've been on it.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the UFO sightings are, in the Arizona, New Mexico area. That's where they start seeing those along Route 66.
Actually, there was a UFO thing going on when I was there.
Okay.
And it wasn't far away from where we were. We were in Phoenix City, and basically there'd been something on the news about something hovering.
What was it? A flap?
Sorry?
UFO flap?
Well, it was more of a just like one sighting, which the Sky Harbor Airport had reported. The tower had reported it, and then the late news reported it as well. But that wasn't far from Route 66, where.
That's what makes me laugh. You said, like you say, the late news reported that there was a UFO. You wouldn't get that over here. You could have a UFO sitting on top of Buckingham Palace and they won't report it.
No.
Not on the television.
Yeah, we tend to trivialise ufology over here, which is such a shame, really.
Well, I don't know so much. We've got a big flap going on the network at the moment, the Paranormal UK Radio Network, everybody. Inside the Outer Limits radio show that we have on our network with Philip Mantle and Chris Evans. Alien abduction, not alien abduction, alien autopsy is all going on. The flap is going on. We're hitting the big time with that one. So anybody wants to tune into that, I'm going to have a little dig and get that one out there. Do you believe in UFOs then?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Have you seen one?
You have?
Cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've believed in UFOs all this time. I also served some time in the U.S. military, so there's things that I've seen that, and I'm not going to say that I saw UFOs or whatever when I was in the military, but there were at least some organizations and some like surface material that that you knew things were going on related to UFOs, and so yeah, my clearance didn't allow me into those areas. I didn't have a need to know, is what they call it, to get into those areas. My expertise was for other things, but I knew stuff was going on. You saw the departments there, and it's like, okay, so something's going on there. My first UFO experience was actually just this past December, and I was just on the road in Missouri.
Yeah.
It was at night. I'm headed out to Oklahoma. My son was graduating college, and was going out to the ceremony. And as I'm driving down the highway, there's these two red lights that are just hovering in the air off the other side of the highway. And I'm looking, and I'm like, what in the world is that over there? And all of a sudden, zoom! It just took right off, and off into the night sky, and it was gone. I'm looking, and I'm like, I think I just saw a UFO.
Wow.
It was nothing big, nothing glamorous, but there we go.
Well, that's unidentified, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, this where I live in, this is called the Glendowerth Valley, okay, in Wales. Any Welsh people listening to us now, okay, I don't say it right, I am from London. Glendowerth Valley. No, it's not bad at all. Not quite right, but not bad. And it's like UFO highway out there in this valley. You sit out there on the patio at night and you can see these things moving across the sky. But they're obviously not airplanes. There's no sound from them, and they just move across the sky. And where they go to, I don't know. I don't particularly care either, as long as they don't land in my back garden.
Right.
But we do see a lot of them over here, but we kind of, we have got air enthusiasts. A lot of the boys from the radio show, on the network, they are enthusiasts with the UFOs and everything, but they just don't interest me, not really. I don't like aliens.
Well, it's just, I don't believe we're alone in the universe.
Oh, no, neither do I.
These things are going to exist. They happen, yeah. I mean, I think we should let's get it over with. Let's introduce ourselves to whoever else is out there, and we'll just, let's get it over with, and and continue on with life.
Mike, they may want to eat us. You don't know, do you?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if they wanted to eat us, they'd already be eating us.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Well, maybe they are. We keep disappearing.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you never know.
I guess.
No, I'm not comfortable with them, I got excited one day because I opened the back door, and I've always had this fear of aliens. Let's put it that way. And ghosts, anything like that, I can handle. I can live amongst, I can handle them. But this fear of aliens has always been with me. And one day I opened the door, and I saw, to let the dogs out for their last wee of the night, and I saw kind of coming, obviously the security lights came on, but I saw coming towards me this kind of, the only way I can describe it is that predator in the film. This shimmering type outline was coming towards me.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And as it was about, this one was about 5 foot high, just a bit smaller than me. I'm 5'5", so it was 5 foot, but around about 5 foot high. And as it got to about 2 or 3 foot away from me, I put my hand up at it, because over here, you don't want anyone coming into your space. You stick your hand up, the palm of your hand up to it, and it's don't go there type thing, But the words that came out of my mouth were a bit more, not quite so polite. And this thing didn't turn around, but it just moved backwards and then disappeared.
Interesting.
2 years later, I let the dogs out again for a wee, always at night time, and the same thing happened, but only this time this thing was a lot bigger than I was.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And are you sure that's an alien?
And it was
or
2
are you
years
sure
later. I don't know what the hell it was, but the point is, it's something I didn't like anyway.
You got a bad feeling?
Same thing happened. Yeah. The dogs were down the bottom of the garden. The security lights went off. I knew this thing was not far away from me, and I was waving my hands like mad in the air trying to get the security lights to go on, but I was well out of the beam. I called the dogs. They started coming up the garden. They got into the beam of the lights. The lights went on. They stopped at the edge of the patio, and that's a big patio out there, and they just wouldn't come any closer to me. They growled. Their heckles went up. They just growled and then backed away. And this thing was still there. I could see this thing now even clearer because the lights were on, and this outline, and it just moved away. And disappeared. And as soon as it moved away, the dogs came forward and came in the door.
Right.
That's really interesting. I mean, it could be alien. It could be spirit.
It could be predator.
Shauna, she, it's one of the things, it's similar to something that she describes, where she describes it more like, she describes it as a shimmer, like a heat mirage.
Yeah, that's it.
Where,
it moves. Yeah.
And she starts seeing that
I call it an invisible being.
Okay. Yeah. She started seeing it when we were investigating Mineral Springs Hotel here, which is a place we frequent a lot, in a room that we started calling Molly's room because of a lot of the experiences that we were having up there. She's a young lady, and she frequented there and kind of like really connected with Shauna, and then Shauna started seeing this thing like a shimmer, like a heat mirage.
Yeah, it is.
And
that's
she's
how
been
it
seeing
goes.
a lot. Yeah, she's been seeing a lot more frequently, but she believes that this is the spirit form of Molly, not necessarily like an alien, but an actual spirit.
Well, this was in my back garden, so what it is, I don't know. But, in my head, it was alien, and that was it. And I've been really wary of them ever since.
Do you remember me saying about how it's difficult sometimes for us as humans because our visual range is not as big as it could be? So I think sometimes we can't pick up because we're just not designed to pick it up.
Right.
If you look at some animals, they have an amazing visual acuity range. The spectrum of vision is huge. And we don't have that. But yet, if one of our senses, like our sight goes, our hearing improves. And vice versa.
Yep.
If our hearing goes, our other senses become heightened, and because we rely on it more. So I think there's something, I don't know whether we've still got to evolve in some way or whether we're just not meant to see it. I don't know.
I don't know, but the way Shauna, is it? Shauna described it was
Shauna,
absolutely, yeah, that is exactly it. I've always said it's like Predator because that's the nearest I think. But when you think about it, like a heat mirage, yeah, this is it. That's what I see, and I've seen it on I've seen it on 2 different occasions.
Amazing.
You know, both in the garden. Both in the garden. Like I said, the second time I saw it, it was towered above me. And another thing that I got from it is like that sounds crazy. It's in my book, people, if you want to read it. But it's like it downloaded me with information, but I can't remember what it was. I have no idea what it was.
How do you know that?
You know, yeah. I don't know. It's just something like it communicated in some way, like EVP. It communicated with me, and I knew that when I came back into the house that there was some sort of communication, but I can't bring it out. I cannot bring it out what it was. And yeah, maybe, but you know, the way I just leave it. If it's meant to come out, it'll come out. Maybe there's a special time when I should know whatever it was that he's told me. I don't know. But that's how it is. I'm a very funny one, obviously, Mike.
Definitely interesting. So you know it downloaded you with information, but you don't know what that download was.
No. I've got no idea whatsoever. So I wasn't, whatever it is, I'm not meant to know what it is at the moment.
So
it's just,
do you think that that's because they think you're not ready? Or, I don't know, what? Because I've heard of this sort of thing before. Like, they call it, like, cloaked memory. Yeah. And some people have had it. Like I know a lady years ago, she experienced something very similar. And she didn't actually get the memory until 13 years later when she decided to get regressed. And out came all these sort of implanted memories that she said scared the life out of her because they were memories of things she had no recollection of, but in her subconscious they were trapped somehow. But they were, I don't know, she felt like they'd done it on purpose, like they were trying to hide it from her.
Yeah, well, there's something like that. It does feel like that. I know that it said something or something was going on, that it put something in my mind, but what it is, I don't know. So maybe it's because I'm a remote viewer, I don't know. Why me? Why they pick on me, you know? I've got no idea. I've got no idea what they were doing out there in the first place, but...
Oh, it's a nice place.
Right.
Well, yeah, it's a lovely valley. Very lovely valley. Yeah. Keep out of my backyard. But it's the dogs. It was the reaction of the dogs. You know, if Shauna has told you that it is like this heat mirage, the dogs, they wouldn't come. They were about 20 foot away, 20, 30 foot away. They wouldn't come any closer. You know, why would they be like that? There is definitely something there that frightened them. They could see it. I couldn't. All I could see was this
they could
kind
see
of
it or sense it
shimmering.
or what have you, and they wanted to keep away from it for sure. Yeah.
But, you know, so I often wonder whether this second one that I saw 2 years after the first one, whether it was the first one came back a bit more grown up. Who knows? He was certainly bigger.
Well, that's hard to know, but I mean, it's always possible.
Well, you don't know, yeah. Might be. Just hope it doesn't come back again. That's
right, and be even bigger.
Yeah. I'll have to offer it a cup of tea next time. Maybe that'll do it.
There you go.
But getting back onto Route 66, haunted roads especially. You know, you're talking about the Phantom Hitchhiker and things like this. There's so many stories all around the world where they actually hitchhike on the road, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few. You know, the Phantom Hitchhiker is one that
Yeah.
That's seen a lot in a lot of different places. You know, it's not always Route 66. You know, there's other locations out there that report the same thing, or there might be a woman in white alongside of the road, kind of doing the same thing, you know, hitchhiking, or there may be somebody looking for help, you know, almost like the whole injured motorist sort of scenario, and they're looking for help. The person stops and they're gone.
Mm.
You know, there's phantom cars, phantom motorcycles, things like that. We just went to a location here. Was it 2 days ago or was it yesterday? I don't know. The days have all kind of blended together, where there's supposed to be a headless ghost rider.
We got a few of them here as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Goes over this bridge, and when he lost his life, he lost control of the motorcycle up over the bridge, and somehow in the process lost his head. You know, so
that's a shame. Yeah. But, you know, the hitchhiker is a legend that seems to spread all around the world. Like, we've got Bluebell Hill. We've got a lady on Bluebell Hill here, which is a remote part of the country. And I think she was on her way to a wedding or something, if I'm wrong. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, I know. But I think she was on her way to a wedding or something or other, or she was due to get married, and she was killed on the road just before it happened. So she's often seen on Bluebell Hill. Monks is another thing. We have a lot of monks in this country. That's something you don't get much of, isn't it?
Monks, not a lot.
We've got monks everywhere.
Yeah, we've had priests and nuns, not a lot of monks.
No? So, back on the roads again, you know, have you ever experienced anything yourself along the roads? I have.
Along the road, I really haven't along the road, actually. I mean, I've had a lot of different experiences in my life, but the roads, and I've traveled a lot of roads too with all the traveling around that I do, but I haven't actually experienced a lot on the roads.
Well, I have, I tell you. We were travelling back from Scotland once, down the motorway. We were coming down the motorway, and you know, you've got the up side of the motorway and the down side. We were coming along the downside, and coming on the upside, what would have been the upside of the motorway, travelling down, was a hearse. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning, an old-fashioned hearse. And then it just disappeared. I saw it, my husband saw it, and my mother saw it.
Oh, really interesting.
Yeah, an old-fashioned hearse. It only seemed to be there for about, 100 yards, but it was there. And we all saw it. And then my last experience on the road was just after Christmas. I was going to my cousin's funeral in Scotland, and I had to get the plane from Bristol Airport. And the plane was flying out at 6 o'clock in the morning. So we live 2 hours away from Bristol Airport. And, of course, you've got to get there earlier, haven't you, to book in and one thing or another. So we left the early hours of the morning and we had to be at the airport by about 4 o'clock. And it was coming up close to 4 o'clock, and we were near the airport. We turned off the motorway, but we lost all directions for the airport. The sat-nav wouldn't work for some reason. We're driving and driving. I'm starting to panic now because I knew if I didn't get to the airport, I wouldn't get to my cousin's funeral up in Glasgow.
Right.
And all of a sudden, this was winter, cold winter's night, right? We're driving down this lane, and there was like a mist rolling over the fields and everything. There wasn't a house to be seen, not a street lamp, nothing. And out of nowhere came an old man. So solid as can be, absolutely solid. And I said to my husband, I said, stop, pull over, ask that old man the directions, right? Yeah. So he saw him as well. So we both stopped the car. The car stopped, and the old man came over, and Brian wound down the window and asked the way to Bristol Airport. He said, You'll never find it. I'll have to get in the car and come with you. And before we could say anything, he opened the back door and climbed in the back seat of the car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we're carrying on. He hardly spoke. The only time he spoke was to say, turn left, turn right, go through this village, go that way. When we got to the airport, we were driving towards the short stay car park, and before we got to the short stay car park, he said, you can let me out here. I said, but how are you going to get back? Because we travelled about 15 miles. He said, don't worry. He said, I'll get back. And he got out of the car, went to say goodbye to him. At that split second, I looked at my husband looked at me. When we turned around, he was gone. There was nowhere he could have disappeared to. But this aggravated me for about a week. And the following weekend, I said to my husband, tell me, what did you see? And he started to describe the man. I started to describe what I'd seen of the man, and we both saw completely different people.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. So what did he see?
He saw an oldish man with hair that was well kept, well cut, right? I saw an old man with hair like he'd been dragged through a bush, all sticking up all over the place. He saw him with glasses. I didn't see any glasses. He said he was carrying a bag. I never saw a bag. He said he was wearing a light-coloured jacket. I saw him with a dark-coloured jacket on. He said he was carrying a torch. I said, didn't see any torch. He wasn't carrying anything. There were totally different descriptions of this old man.
Really
but if we hadn't have bumped into him, I would never have got to the airport. I would never have got to my cousin's funeral.
Right.
So I thank him for that, whoever he was.
Yeah, certainly.
Some people say he was some sort of guardian angel. Another person says he was a ghost. You know, someone else to say he's a ghost. I don't know who he was. He could have been an alien for all I know. But, you know, he got us there to that airport, but he disappeared. It's quite frightening, actually, when you think about it. But it was something not right all the time he was in the car. I just didn't feel that there was something right about him.
Right.
Although he was as solid as anything. I just felt that there was something very strange about him. And all that week, it just nagged and nagged and nagged at me. So when Brian came home the following weekend, I asked him what he saw, and he saw something, you know, a completely different person. His description was totally different.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about how spirits allow themselves to be seen by us, that whether it's like at a different point in their lives and what have you, but it sounds like you each saw adult men, but both in a different form, so that's really interesting.
Yeah. It was just strange. Even on the aeroplane flying up to Scotland, I kept thinking about it. I kept thinking about it all the time, you know. But you know what it's like. You just presume your partner's seen exactly the same as you.
Right. Yeah, that's really
Until I asked him that following weekend, you know, what did he experience? What did you see? Because it was just nagging at me all the time. So
right, you knew something was off.
I knew something was off. It was totally off. And what was an old man doing at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock about 4 o'clock, I think it was, in the morning, wandering down the lanes of a countryside, miles away from any town, in the middle of winter? You know?
Right. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with that.
Yeah. It's not as if he could have been a peeping Tom because there was no houses about. There was nothing there. Not even a cow in a field.
So it's like a spirit guide.
I don't know what he was, but, you know, there was the funeral of my favourite cousin. We were very close when we were young, and if he hadn't been, like I said, if he hadn't have appeared, I wouldn't have got to Glasgow. I wouldn't have got there at all, you know, in time for the funeral.
Well, whoever he was watching out for you.
Yeah.
Make sure you got there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the strange things happen like that all the time around me. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with Wales. You know, I live in Carmarthenshire. This is where Merlin was made.
Oh,
Just down the road, there's a place called Merlin's Mount. I think that's why they called it Merlin's Mount. You know, he was made there, I think, somewhere. I don't know. But Carmarthen is very famous for Merlin.
okay.
Magical county, I don't know. Magical place.
Sounds like it,
You know, Bristol Airport's over 100 miles away, or about 100 miles away from here. But I'm grateful for him turning up, you know. It's a bit worrying, but how the hell did he get back to where he was going?
Right.
But, you know, Bristol Airport's out in the middle of nowhere as well.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That time of the morning, there's no buses. So, I don't know. But have you ever had any strange stories like that?
With an old man popping into the back seat and looking different. I can't say that I've had that. I mean, I've had a lot of other different types of experiences. You know, obviously the shadow person one I mentioned earlier, and some of the other things, very different, but still, you know, it's interesting because, you know, you tell some people and they think you're totally off your rocker, and then other people, you know, can completely relate to you. So it's.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of the story of Telly Savalas and the baseball player?
I can't say that I have.
Right, you can actually watch it on YouTube. It's a very rare sort of footage of Telly Savalas, of course, Kojak. And he was a bit uncomfortable talking about it. He had a paranormal experience, which he didn't believe in that sort of thing, to be honest with you. He didn't really believe in that. He just said it was a load of hocus pocus sort of stuff. And he was a young man. I think the story begins like he was just a young man, and he was trying to make his way in life by doing different jobs, and he wasn't really making enough money even to get enough gas for his car, he was saying. And this one particular day, he was on his way back from a job, working in some bar or something, and he ran out of gas, and he was trying to work out how to get home, and suddenly this kind of van pulled up, and a man with a very high-pitched voice, almost like a child's voice, said, "Do you need a ride?" And he looked up at this guy and said, well, yeah. Yeah, I could do it. I'm in the middle of nowhere. I mean, yeah, I could really do with a ride. So he got into the van and he said, "Look, I can't pay you. I don't get paid till Tuesday. So could I send you some money?" And this guy said, "Don't worry about that for now." And then just out of nowhere, this guy just said,
"Well, that'd worry me if saying that."
Well, exactly, yeah. But he actually was quite. He said he was quite friendly, but he had a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And he seemed quite genuinely like he was going to help. So he said, "Look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll drive you down to the next gas station, and I'll buy you a can so you can put into your car." And he went, "Oh, that's very kind of you." So as he's driving along, they're having a bit of small talk, and then this guy just turned around and said, "There's a left fielder that plays for the local team. He's not going to have a good day next week, is he?" and Telly Savalas looked at him and went, "I have absolutely..." He didn't know how to respond. He just looked at him and was confused, because he's talking about the future, and he just sort of tried to pass it off as just random sort of stuff. Got a little bit nervous, and then they got to the gas station. This guy gave him some money, and he went and got a canister of gas and got back into the vehicle, and he drove back and dropped him off at his car. So he said, "Thanks very much." He said, "Can I take your address? Because I'd really like to send you the money back. I'd like to wire it you." And this guy said, "Yeah, sure. Sure. I'll give you the address now." So he wrote it on a piece of paper and he gave it to him. He said, "Thanks very much. I'm really grateful." And the guy just drove on his merry way. And about 2 weeks later, when he got paid properly, he decided to open up the address and was going to wire the money and he rang the phone number. And when he phoned, this lady answered, and he went, "I'm sorry, can I speak to such and such?" And the man gave his name. I can't remember it myself, but Telly Savalas remembered it, and he said, I need to speak to this gentleman because he lent me some money and he was very kind, and I really like to send him some money. And she went, "Who are you talking about?" And he said, "This is the name of the guy." And she went, "Look, if you're some sort of prank caller, I want you to get off the phone. This isn't funny, all right? Because he's been dead 2 years."
Oh, wow.
And Telly Savalas went, "I'm sorry, what was that?" And he completely stopped. He said, "I'm really sorry. This isn't a prank call. I really need to send him the money." And she went, "Look, I don't know who you've seen or whoever's out there doing this nasty joke. I don't want any part of this." And he went, "Look, I'm Telly Savalas. I'm Kojak off the TV." Well, he wasn't famous then, but he was an actor, young aspiring actor. He said, I must come and see you." And this lady sort of said, "Well, okay, yeah, I'll meet you at a neutral venue." So they met at this cafe. He came, she came, they chatted, and he said, "Look, I'm really sorry about this. I know it's a big shock, but I think I met your husband that you've been talking about."
Wow.
And she said, "Well, how could you possibly have met him?" She said, "Describe him to him." She said, "Well, he was about 5'10". He had very thin hair. He had a very high-pitched voice, like a squeaky voice." She said, "Well, yeah, he had he had like throat cancer. So it made his voice box distort. So
Wow.
She said at the end of his life, he could barely speak. He was very squeaky." And she said, "You've got that dead right. How you could possibly have known that?" And he also said, "By the way, I brought a paper with me today," and put it in front of her. And she said, "What are you showing me here?" She said, "This baseball player here, he died yesterday." And
Wow.
she said, "Well, what's this got to do with my husband?" She said, "Well, he told me that this guy was going to have a bad day next Tuesday. He died that day." How could he know that? I mean, it was such a strange experience. And the lady, in the end, she wept. She was very upset about it. She said, "These things you couldn't possibly have known." And
This is similar, though, to a lot of these hitchhiker stories, aren't they, where they leave the scarf or something in the car and they take it back. It's very similar to that.
yeah, it's like they're giving you knowledge in order to prove they're actually there. And if you're lucky enough to get that knowledge, it's overwhelming evidence, because there's no way Telly Savalas could have known this person, could have known he had an injury.
Mm.
Right.
He could never have known that baseball player was going to die. It was just too much information. But Telly Savalas doesn't like talking about it, 'cause it gives him this. Yeah.
Well, he can't now.
When he was alive, he hated speaking about it because he said it really scared him to death.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, talking about scared to death, have you ever had anything, Mike, that's absolutely terrified you?
I mean, honestly, the scariest thing was when I was a kid, and that happened. Anything as an adult, I've pretty much been prepared for, so I'm putting myself into that environment. And I would say more of there's been shocking things rather than scary. Like we were filming for the show The Haunted, which was on Animal Planet here, and while we had Carl Johnson, a demonologist, out there doing a cleansing of the house, and while he was doing that, he was doing one over the girl, which was experiencing a lot of the activity, and she seemingly got punched in the gut and fell to the ground. We picked her up, put her on the bed for a moment, and she recovered. She was okay, but I got a clip, because I was running my audio recorder. I got a clip right there that said "die." So it's a very scary moment, but not in the sense that I was scared at the time. I was really just kind of watching what was going on as we were going through the cleansing. So, but yeah, I mean, there's been tense moments, I suppose, but nothing that really frightened me.
You've never walked into a place and you've got that overwhelming feeling of evil?
Yeah, I mean, I'll walk into a place and I'll get a sense of kind of what's going on. If it's a lot of times I'll feel like a heavy oppressive feeling if something evil has gone on there, or I'll just kind of like, if it's not heavy and oppressive, I'll just get a feeling that there's something going on here. And generally, those are just nice, fine people that have been there for a while. So
you've not actually gone into a place where it's been so overwhelmingly dark and strong that you either have that fight or flight fear feeling, and where you got that gut instinct, like you said earlier on, that gut instinct that we've all got it. That is our biggest defense.
It is, and I've never had a reason to really act on it. I've been in situations where other people have had to get out of the room. I have walked out of a room before where, I was having a lot of pressure on my head. I definitely could feel the supernatural activity in the room. I had a black tourmaline stone in my hand that broke in half. And we left the room just kind of get a bit of a breather.
Yeah.
5 minutes later, as we're downstairs, we're watching the monitors, and we're hearing some of the different the audio equipment, and from upstairs, one of the pieces of audio equipment caught somebody walking around one of the halls, and I went right back to where I had been, and got this. It was like somebody had poked me in the back of the shoulder with like a knife or something like that. And, I just backed off into one of the rooms and said, okay, you can't be doing that. You're not allowed to. And I walked back out into the hall. So, it's a situation that maybe a lot of other people just would have said, I'm done for the night.
Yeah.
But that wasn't me. I kept going.
I understand. I used to do a lot of investigations and things, but they were mainly on businesses, business premises more than anything.
Okay.
I've done a few houses. There was a house down here, another Edwardian house, where we got a hell of a lot of them, Victorian and Edwardian houses over here. And nobody could live in it for long. Everybody seemed to die. Even the man doing the roof fell off his ladder and died, which was an absolute shame, because he wasn't very old either.
Wow.
And this house had been a beautiful, honest to God, why people do this, I don't know. Beautiful house, right? They turned the upstairs into a flat and the downstairs into another flat apartment, for those who don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't understand why people do that.
Yeah. The staircase was there, gorgeous staircase, but it didn't go anywhere because they built this floor above, so you'd walk up the stairs and hit your head on the ceiling sort of thing. There was nowhere to go.
Right.
And this apparition that was there, it had to get to the upstairs apartment, you had to go out of the house, round the side of the house, and up a fire escape. And that's where the entrance was to the upstairs apartment. This thing had us running from one place to another this night, honestly. If we were downstairs, it was upstairs. If we were upstairs, it was downstairs. We had recorders upstairs, we had recorders going downstairs, and cameras and one thing or another. But it just gave us the runaround all night. It was like it was playing with us. It was... You'd be downstairs and you'd hear all no one was in the house, right? Just us. You'd be downstairs, and upstairs you'd hear all this banging and stuff being thrown around. You got upstairs, nothing out of place, and then it was all happening downstairs. So you come running out again. Yeah. Oh, it wore. I tell you, I lost a few pounds on that place. Right. But so, do you do private houses? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we do private houses.
Yeah.
If people can contact us, reach out to us, and if they have a private residence that they want us to take a look at, we will certainly do that.
And if they've got anything there that needs clearing, do you actually have you got a medium or somebody, a psychic that works with you that will do that for you?
Yeah, we've done those things before. So, Vanessa's our medium. She does mostly remote viewing. Every once in a while, she's out with us because she's not near us. She's out in Oklahoma. So, but yeah, we've done cleansings before.
Yeah. And has it been? What about poltergeists? Have you had poltergeist activity?
I've been on cases with poltergeist activity, sure. Yeah.
They're good, aren't they? Exciting. You never. I was doing a television show in this house actually, and you know what they're like, these television shows. They've got to have the drama. If you haven't got anything going, they expect the activity to react. If it doesn't react, they make the activity. Like a cupboard door, they'd put a fishing wire on the cupboard door and pull the door open and things like that. Well, this particular night, they've been filming it for about 3 days. Nothing was happening, nothing, It was quite a disappointment. But on this particular night, they were sitting there filming, and I had a candle on the mantelpiece, and it picked up in the air and just flew across the room. I've never seen a television crew crap themselves like they did that night. They were absolutely terrified.
So they hadn't rigged that one up, huh?
No, that one hadn't been rigged up. No.
Okay.
Interesting. And it was a big pillar candle as well, those big fat ones?
Yeah.
It was one of those. And it just lifted up. It was like my ghosts were playing with them.
Right.
But, it's all fun and games in this house, I tell you.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. If ever you're over here, you can come and do my house. But I don't want my spirit family moved on because they built the house. My 3 ghosts, they actually built this house. I think I'm the second family to live in this house, and it's that's
completely understandable. We won't cleanse unless we're expressly asked to do so.
No,
I hear about some of these people that just walk into these locations and they'll say, "Oh yeah, there were so many spirits here, and we crossed over this many." And
yeah. I used to run an organisation. I don't know whether you've heard of it, Spirit Rescue International.
Okay.
It was a big organisation. Had people in all different countries working for it, and. We used to do the cleansing. We used to do the investigations. We used to do the cleansing. And then we used to do a lot of, we had nurses, doctors, people like that working for us. So there was a lot of aftercare for the victims.
Okay, sure.
And I wouldn't, we had to be 100% certain there was something going on before we actually would take a case. Because there was a massive... application form, I think 90 odd questions. Most of them were medical. A lot of them were medical questions, Yeah. Practically down to what did you eat today, sort of thing. It would take it. One woman, she said to me, it took me over 3 hours filling that in. But we used to work in Germany, France, America, a lot of America, New Zealand, all over the place.
Okay.
And it was all controlled from various parts of here in America. I had people in America doing a lot of work for me. So it was a fantastic organisation, and we helped a hell of a lot of people, and it went for many, many years until I decided to retire. So that was the end of it then.
So you did it in, huh?
Yeah. I've done all that business. I've done the mediumship. Yeah. I've done transmedium. I've worked for organisations in London as a remote viewer. I've done the clearings. I've done all that sort of thing. Now I just settle down. I do the radio. That's the way I like it now. I'm retired.
Okay. Yeah, very good.
So don't come to me, people, because otherwise I'll put you on to someone else because I don't do it anymore. Okay. And I sit there trying to write my books, but I don't get anywhere with them because every time I love spy books. I write a lot of spy books because this is what I know. So doing, but I keep getting blocks, writer's block. And I've had writer's block for 2 years on The Spy in Paris. People are nagging me for The Spy in Paris, but, I've got writer's block on it. But unlike you can write 10 books, Mike.
Well, yeah, when it comes to the writer's block, I mean, basically what I have to, because I have an idea of where I want to, when it comes to the fiction, where I want to take a story. So it may not be all fleshed out in my mind, but it's like, okay, I want them to start here, and I want to eventually get there. In the middle's the journey, and as I'm writing, different ideas will come into my mind. Oh, it'd be interesting if we went here or did that. And if I get stuck somewhere as I'm writing, I'll just stop, jump to another part that I already know where I want to go, write that little section, and usually by the time I've done that, I'll have it in my head. Oh, this is what I want to put back there, and I'll go back and write that.
Oh, I'll try that, because with me with I'm doing The Spy in Paris at the moment, which, like I said, a lot of people have been waiting for it to come out, but I've had writer's block on it for 2 years now and keep making excuses. When I get writer's block, that's it. I stop. I never thought, and yeah, I know the ending of the book. I know everything, but I just cannot get past this one thing to do with plutonium.
Oh, okay.
So I am stuck there, and I just cannot get past that little piece. I know the end of the book. I know what's going to be happening with the Russians. I know what's going to be happening with Cheshire spies and all this sort of thing, So
they're right on that stuff for a while.
Yeah, I'm going to try that. Try that. I may get this book finished. And I'll tell you, people, this is going to be the last spy book you get out of me. Yeah. It'll be a how to do it after that. That's the only book I'm going to do.
There you go.
How to be a spy. How to do it. Yeah. So, how are we getting for time, Christian?
Well, we normally would be wrapping up quite soon, but I still think we've got another about 5 minutes.
Do you know something? Like, we mess up on the time every week, don't we?
Oh yeah.
Well, we try our best, We can't do any more than that. I mean, we can't really factor into the time potentially people walking around your house. I mean.
Well, I've got three producers. I've got 3 producers work for me, a production manager and 3 producers. Can I get them to do my show? No, they're always busy doing other shows. So that's it. We have to muddle through.
About 5 more minutes, sorry.
You've got about 5 more minutes. Okay, let's have a look now. Black-eyed children. Do you think there's a connection between black-eyed children and shadow people? Do you think the shadow people, this is 2 questions, isn't it? Do you think the shadow people could be ghosts, or do you think they are some sort of being that actually exists in our dimension? Maybe, or in a parallel dimension, maybe, something like the Fae.
Yeah, those are definitely 2 different questions. Yeah, black-eyed children, I think that there's some sort of interdimensional being. I've known people that have actually seen them. I don't think that they're shadow people. I think there's something completely separate.
Yeah.
But still just a very strange interdimensional being.
You don't think there's some sort of hybrid or something?
No, I don't think so. Because of the way they'll disappear, and you blink for a second and they're gone. So yeah, I don't think they're any sort of hybrid or anything like that. I think it's some sort of entity that's out there that is trying to mask itself as humans, and for whatever reason they're trying to get into your house. They're trying to be invited in.
Yeah.
You have to invite them in.
That's it, like vampires. You've got to invite them in. They just come in. So this is it. They have to be invited in. Like when we were talking with our guest last week, he was talking about an experience of someone in a car, and they kept asking to get into the car.
Yeah.
So whether it's a house or a car, people Don't let any black-eyed
Don't let
kiddies
'em
in
in.
there. No, don't let them in. And do you know something? After the show last week, and I'm going to be like it again now because I talked about black-eyed children and I got this thing about aliens.
They
After
could
the
be
show.
aliens, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We finished the show, and about midnight, I finished talking with Christian, and I sat up till 3 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't go to bed. I scared
Oh, no.
myself.
Oh,
I
geez.
did.
You mustn't do that.
Yeah, so I shouldn't have mentioned black-eyed children again, should I? Because I get this feeling that I'm encouraging them, and it's usually
Might be.
about midnight they knock the bloomin' door.
Oh.
So I'm told.
They've been seen all different times of day, not just midnight.
So then let's talk about shadow people. Ghosts or not ghosts?
Both. I think there's a couple different kinds. So, and I didn't used to believe so. There was a long time where I didn't believe that they were ever ghosts at all. But doing the work that I do, especially working on the book that I am right now and talking to a lot of different people, I do believe that there are some shadows out there that, and I won't call them shadow people. They're shadows.
Yeah.
But they are human spirits that are trying to manifest and can't take a full physical form for whatever reason, and so they come off looking like a shadow, which makes things difficult when you witness something, determining whether this is a human entity or it's something else. Because I do believe that there are real entities out there that are shadow people that have not been human, that are completely separate, that are completely something else, like the Hat Man, or like that humanoid figure that did something to me when I was a child, or like the Crawler, or the ones with the red eyes. I think those are all a different type of entity and not human.
Well, the red-eyed ones, they get mistaken for demons, don't they, quite often?
Well, they do, because everybody associates red eyes with
demons.
Something, with demons and all that. But I mean, I've heard stories of the ones with the red eyes acting like other shadow people, where they just stand there and stare at you. They don't do anything, so.
You see, I don't really believe in demons, not the church idea of demons.
Okay.
I believe that there is an energy out there, or there is energies out there that are not good, but that's what they are. They're energies, more so than demons.
Yeah, there are definitely things that are out there that are mean, nasty, and nefarious that never walked the earth as a human. And if you want to say that's a demon, fine. But I do think that, especially with the television shows, everything has to be a demon now. And so,
in America, everything's a demon. Over here,
right, exactly.
Everything's a ghost. Over here, very, very, very few people actually phone up and say, "I've got a demon." But when I was working in America with Spirit Rescue International, nearly everybody was saying to me, "It's a demon, it's a demon, it's a demon," and it wasn't.
Yeah, I'll have people contact me and say, "Well, a candle fell off my mantle. I think I have a demon." No, no, you don't.
Just got a ghost trying to tell you something. That's all.
Right.
Get a perfumed candle. But the idea of demons is demon, or that strength of entity, that evilness, that darkness of an entity, or an energy, or whatever you want to call it, is very, very rare. Very rare.
Right, exactly.
And, you'd be lucky if you come across one or two in a lifetime, I think, even with... I've been at this for a few years. I'm not saying how many on the radio, but let's put it this way. You were more than likely a twinkle in your dad's eye at the time. But... and I've only ever come across really pure evil. No, I couldn't even count it all on one hand. There's,
right.
2-3 times, maybe.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I tell people in all the years I've been doing this, which is,
and I work worldwide.
About 30 years, and it's been one time where you could say, yeah, that was probably demonic.
Yeah.
And I'm not the one that made that call. That was, Carl Johnson, who's a renowned demonologist, that made that call that yes, this was demonic. And so it's like, okay, so that was, and it was very nasty. It was very, it had a lot of those evil tendencies and all of that going on. So yeah, it was terrible. But that was one time in 30 years. So. Well,
this is it. I've been at it over 50 years, and I'm lucky if I've done 3. And I've worked worldwide, literally worldwide, and I've done a lot of church work, So, to me, they're very rare, very, very rare.
Yes, very rare.
But demons gets bums on seats, and demons makes money. Ghosts don't so much.
It does, yeah.
That's it. See? That's it, and it makes for exciting reading.
Exactly. Yeah, it sells.
Yeah, demons sell. They literally sell. Ghosts don't sell as well as demons.
Right.
You see all these horror films and everything, all these paranormal films. It's all demonic. It's all demons, But it is a very, very rare thing, and those people that are out there think they've got a demonic haunting, it's more than likely some little ghost, that just needs a bit of help.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. Anyway, so we must be coming up to the end now.
To wrap up. We've got about a minute left.
Yes. Okay, then. Let's see. HauntedRoadMedia.com. Good enough. That's your website. That's your website.
That's the website.
Yeah, Ghostorian, the Society of the Haunted. Ghostorian. Is that actually another website?
Well, yeah, there's MikeRicksecker.com, which is my personal writing website. Society of the Haunted, it has a website that forwards back to Haunted Road Media right now, because that's all part of Haunted Road Media. But you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. There's the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, youtube.com/Haunted Road Media. We have almost 700 videos up there right now, so you can find out a lot about us on that YouTube channel.
God, you're busy with the videos. Right, and also this man is very busy with his books as well. You've got 10 books out there that can be bought on all the Amazons, all Amazons.com.co.uk. .fr.it, all the other ones as well. Where else can they buy your books?
They can find them on my website, MikeRicksecker.com. A lot of the different stores like Barnes & Noble, has those books as well. So you can find the stuff out there.
Yeah, okay. And if people want to get in touch with you, Mike?
Either one of the websites, MikeRicksecker.com or HauntedRoadMedia.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media networks.
Okay. Lovely. Well, that's it, people. This is a wrap. And I'm going to go and have a cup of tea. And I thank Mike Ricksecker for coming on as our guest. Mike. And Christian for being my support tonight. And supporting me as usual, Christian. Well, co-host people. And like I said, I'm just going to go and make a cup of tea now because I've had it. I'm so hot. All right. Okay, that's it.